Hey, welcome to Daily Faith today. My name is Philip Cameron, and I am delighted to have you with us. Boy, do we have an interesting program today. This is very, very close to my heart. Our whole ministry that we do in missions was connected to a wee boy that I found in a crib, starving to death in an orphanage in Timisoara. We adopted him, and by adopting him, this whole new area of missions and ministry opened up in our lives. And you're going to hear me talking today with Dr. Bob Griffith. He's the pastor of a church in the Washington, D.C. area. But God has put a fascinating and unique ministry in this man's heart and his life. And it's about fostering. If you've ever thought about fostering, or if you've never thought about fostering, this might be a day to change your heart. And if you're a pastor, and if you love your pastor, get in contact with him right now. Because as we've traveled over the years, because of my adopting Andrew and the teams and the kids that we had traveled with us, it opened up so many churches to adoption. And a lot of folks said, I never thought about adoption until I heard you speak. And we've got a tremendous program today that I think will inform you, will challenge your spirit. And I just know it's going to be good. We had a great weekend this past weekend. We were up in Philadelphia area. And it was my birthday. I was 69. I know I don't look 69, but I am. And I have a grandson called Rowan, and he is 9. So I'm exactly 60 years to the day older than Rowan. And we were up there, and we were there. We had some business meetings to attend for the church that I'm an elder in. And then we had the whole afternoon off. So we flew from Philadelphia to New York and got an Uber into Manhattan. And I took my grandson, who was with me, to, what's it in the Joey's Pizza? Or Ray's Pizza, which is a famous pizza place, a little hole in the wall, but it had the great pizza. So we had a fabulous time this last weekend celebrating my little grandson's 9th birthday. And for those that maybe have contacted me and wished me happy birthday, I really appreciate it so very much. We are having tremendous times, some exciting things taking place in Eastern Europe. I'll be telling you about that in a few moments. And we just want you to help us, if you could, to share the broadcast on this segment of the Facebook part, or the social media part. In a few moments, we'll start the actual program. But if you can hit your like button or share it with your friends, or hit that wee bell that reminds you when we come on the air. We're here. Daily Faith is a program that God started. I didn't want to do this. We began in the pandemic. Many pastors were contacting us and saying, what's happening in the church? We travel in churches and speak, so we had a broad view of what was going on. And I was spending hours a day talking to pastors. And my sons said, why don't you start a daily program, have a pastor to come on and share what God's doing in his life, and it'll help other pastors. And that's how we started. And it's taken on a whole new life of its own since then. We're seeing many networks across the country, many local stations across the country. And wherever you watch Daily Faith, I hope we are a blessing to you. We want to affirm you in your daily walk with the Lord Jesus. So I'm delighted you're with us. We are going to have a great program. Get a piece of paper and a pen. You might want to write down an address we're going to give you, because you never know. I had 2 kids. I was done at 2 kids. In fact, I preached about any more than 2 kids. You can't care for them enough. You can't do this and you can't do that. I was a silly man, I'll tell you now. And we walked into this orphanage in Romania, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said, that's your son. 200 kids. This wee boy standing half naked, covered in his own waist. And I picked him up and I says, I don't know how, but I'm not going to rest until I get you and make you my son. And that began an adventure that now, 35 years later almost, we are still working out. And we with so many young folk. In fact, they sent me a video I'm going to share with you for my birthday. And all the kids you're going to see, the girls in these videos, if a trafficker gets them, they are worth $300,000 a year. One girl is worth $300,000 a year to a trafficker captor. And that's not the will of God in my life. So I believe we're going to have a great day today. I can't wait for you to hear what God's done in this man's life. I think it's going to challenge you to be involved. For the hundreds of thousands of kids in America that are in the foster care system, they need to be in a godly home. We're delighted to have you. Welcome to Daily Faith. Hey, my friend, welcome to Daily Faith. My name is Philip Cameron, and I am delighted you are here with us today. We have got a great show to come. I believe God's going to bless you and challenge you. And how many, I think it's time you had a challenge in your life. We can get so mundane in our circumstance and just kind of drift along with the current, and time's passing by. And what's that old stanza? You've only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Jesus is going to last. And today's guest, Dr. Bob Griffith, has got a tremendous ministry, and God uses him to challenge people and churches to get involved in the foster care system. Do you know that America has hundreds of thousands of kids that are like little waifs that are lost in these horrendous systems? And the church, I believe, and he believes, the church is the answer. I came to this thing through my mom and my dad. I was the second child. My mom had 4 kids. Eventually, we had my older sister Wendy and myself. And then one day she announced to our family that we all knew that she was a product of a broken home. And she made a promise to God when she was a young girl that if ever she was in a situation that she could adopt a baby, she would do her best to do so. So she announced to us, I think it's time to do this. We all thought it was a great idea. We thought, hey, let's do it. And so she applied to the state in those days, and she wrote them and says, look, whatever the most difficult child to place in your system is the child we want. We don't want to know anything about the child until we go and pick it up. Well, someone reported us as a cult, a Pentecostal cult. So they had to send a social worker to come and live in our house for 2 weeks in case we were weird people. And the woman got saved. She came to our house and she gave her heart to Jesus. It was crazy. And that began the process of adopting my brother Neil. My brother Neil now pastors a great church in Scotland. In fact, he was over here a couple of weeks ago. And he's a tremendous man of God. So our family was introduced to that. And the same thing happened in my life. I went to Romania. My dad almost made me go. And I walked into this orphanage in Timișoara, and this little boy was standing. And the Holy Spirit said, that's your son. In fact, I wrote a book about it. It's called Our Bummer Lamb. A bummer lamb is a lamb that no one wants. The mother ewe doesn't want it. And it will starve to death unless the shepherd gets to the bummer lamb. And this book you can order today if you would like to. But it tells a story, and that's Andrew when I first saw him in his crib. That paint was lead paint. And that's how we began this story. And so we're just excited to have Dr. Bob Griffith with us today. I got a video the other day that I've got to show you because I know our kids watch from Moldova. And they got together, most all that were there, and sent me birthday greetings. All of these girls and boys were lost and undone until we adopted them into the Cameron family. Watch this.
Dear Dad, we heard today is your birthday, so we want to tell you something.
We wish you happiness and health.
Wish you a healthy relation with God and with us.
We love you.
May God give you many, many years. God bless you.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for all you do for us.
Be blessed.
Happy birthday!
Dear Dad, on this wonderful day, we want to say that
You are a good blessing for us.
Thank you for taking care of us.
Thank you for your love,
For your support.
for your advices.
Thank you for being our family.
What you do for us is amazing.
We love you very much.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dad. Happy birthday to you.
Dear Dad, on the occasion of this day, we want to send sincere congratulations and wishes for your future. We really appreciate what you do for us, and may God bless you. Happy birthday.
Isn't that so cool? They didn't exactly sing that happy birthday on tune, but never mind, it's the thought that counts. We have the most amazing place called Vatra Village, a whole village of homes, and we rescue these kids from orphanages in dire situations. And we take them in and share the gospel with them and put them back in school. And orphans become missionaries. It's the most amazing thing. In fact, every pastor that we bring to our ministry in Moldova, this is what they tell us. Of all the mission work we've seen, we've never seen anything that goes this deep and transforms kids so much. If you've never seen this video before, or this ministry before, let me show you one more video to give you an idea as to what we're all about. And maybe God will be speaking to your heart to be a part with us. Watch this.
Today creates another orphan, another soul shattered, another cycle of life that faces nothing but adversity. On a struggle for recovery, alcohol becomes a brief escape from it all. Today, abuse slips into a family for the first time, leaving trails of fear and trauma. And then the stench of poverty engulfs you, a raw state of desperation that makes you vulnerable. Lured into a life of unimaginable exploitation. And so it goes and goes. A downward spiral that sets your life of suffering on repeat. Innocent lives become trapped in an endless loop of desperation.
I was born into a family not only stricken by poverty, but also by disease. I had no notion of dreams and hopes. There was pain and there was hard work. I must say, there were many moments when I wondered if my father had been alive, if things would have been different. Since I can remember, my mother has suffered. The more time went by, the more the disease took over her body and her mind. At one point, she just gave up on everything and started spending most of her time in bed. My mother's disability pension wasn't enough to cover our expenses, and most of the time we had to choose between pain medication, food, or firewood for winter. I often went to bed hungry and in pain. Most nights, I held my mother's hand through her pain, while also hoping we wouldn't freeze to death in our house. The orphan's hand has given me the safety of a home and an opportunity for an education. Something I never thought I would have. I no longer go to bed hungry and in pain. They have given me the opportunity to wake up every morning and work on my dreams to become a doctor. My and my mother's future has completely changed.
Natalia is only a few months away from becoming a doctor. She has made it. We have cared for her and her mom for almost 6 years. The cycle has been broken. This is the reason the Orphan's Hands exists. To break the cycle of devastation, to save young souls before it is too late. With your faithful giving, we are breaking chains of generations that have held everything they know in bondage. One life, one heart at a time. Today redeems an orphaned heart. It heals, it guides, it draws near. It gives refuge, love, and comfort in a place that God holds dear. $1 a day to give them a place where love and kindness, care and comfort can and does change the direction of a lost heart away from the traffic circles of loss into the highway of hope. Please give them the gift of a different today.
And that's exactly what you can do by being partners with us. We're looking for people to sponsor these kids. $1 a day won't change your world financially, but I'll promise you this, for every face you saw on that video, it has changed them forevermore. You can contact us by going to the Orphan's Hands, P.O. Box 25, Clinton, Tennessee, 37716. You can go to dailyfaith.tv, there's a giving page there, or you can call our 800 number, 833-DAILY-FAITH. Be a part with us. We have a home in Ukraine. We've had one for 6 years, long before the war broke out. We're saving and rescuing girls there as well in Moldova. And maybe you have a family member that you're believing God for an answer and a miracle. Well, be a part of this and God will honor you in return. So please be a part, and we are so grateful. Dr. Bob Griffith is pastor of Christ Chapel, in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is on the outskirts of D.C., and he has the most amazing story to tell, and how God's used him over the years to inspire people to get involved in fostering kids. And I'm delighted to have him with us. Bob, thank you so much for being with us today. God bless you.
Well, thank you. This is exciting. What an amazing introduction with all that you're doing with the Orphan's Hands, and just all the lives that you're changing, and just to be a part of that movement with the kingdom of God and just obeying what God has asked us all to do is incredible. So thanks for your voice and for giving voice to helping children that often don't have a voice.
Well, I'm so thrilled. When I saw your book, I'll be talking about this later on. It's called Fostering Jesus. You've got to get this book. And but what I felt as soon as I saw this, I thought, my goodness, this man's got the same heart as me. I went to Moldova or Romania initially with my dad. I had no interest in adopting. I had 2 kids. I was finished, done. Any more than 2, I couldn't put them in proper schools and all the usual excuses we make. And when I saw Andrew standing there starving, I was compelled by the love of God to do something. And then as soon as we adopted him, we had another baby the old-fashioned way. So our family went from 2 to 4, literally in 12 months. And that is the greatest blessing that I've had in my life, that God has expanded our home by opening our heart and our doors to someone else. And tell us about how your journey brought you to the fact of where you are today, Dr. Bob.
Well, it started with my wife, which oftentimes, the Lord uses a spouse or a friend to be a part of, where we're going in our faith journey. And for me, it was my wife just, sharing and her heart to be able to foster and adopt children. And I was not ready. She was ready before I was ready. My heart wasn't open at that time. And I just said, no, I don't see how we can do that. We have a lot going on. We also had 3 children at the time, and I thought that I just don't see how we can do that. But we had some family members and friends in our church that were doing foster care and doing a great job. And so they took all the some of the stereotypes away And we just saw that these are just great kids, and they do wonderful when they're in a loving family. And so one day, I was a staff member at our church, and part of my job was just to connect with the community. And so I went to our local officials and I sat down in a meeting, and I just asked them if I was to wave a magic wand and be able to do anything for you as a church, what is the one thing that you would want our church to do for you? And they said foster care.
Wow.
That was a huge issue in the community. They needed help with that. They needed churches and people that love children to be able to step up. So my wife and I decided to do that. We started out with filling out an application, exploring that, and we had one child, and we loved that experience. And then we had an opportunity to foster 2 more. So 3 children is what we fostered, and all 3 of them got to the place where they needed to be adopted. Well, that's a whole nother situation. Being a foster parent is one thing, and then adopting them is an another set of commitments.
Sure.
So I had to pray about that, and I just told the Lord to go from, just like you, 3 children to 6 children for us.
That's better than I did.
Literally overnight. You say yes, and it happens very quickly.
Yeah.
That seemed very difficult for me. So I prayed a prayer. I said, Lord, I'm going to say no. And so I actually told the Lord no. I said, I'm using my brain. I don't have a big enough house. Sure. I don't have a big enough car. I don't have enough money. I don't know how I'm going to do all this. And so I said, I'm going to say no to this situation unless you really want me to do it. And if you really want me to do it, it was the unless prayer. Sure. Unless you really want me to do it, but then you're going to have to make a way. And do you know, in 24 hours from praying that prayer, we saw 7 what we would call just miraculous confirmations that God wanted us to move forward and adopt these children. And the biggest one was that, again, within 24 hours, within one day of just opening a little crack in the door for God to move in my heart, we saw God bring us a home that we could buy. So we sold our home. We bought a new home in one day of praying that prayer. And it was for the same price. We sold our home, bought a new home, same price, same neighborhood. We didn't have to change anything in our life. But the new home had 2 more bedrooms to be able to handle the new children and have bedrooms for them.
Well,
when we prayed, God reorganized our life. Because the prayer was, unless you want us to do it. And in the Bible, God does want us to do it. Absolutely. And he has the power, and he has the ability and the resources, and he just made it possible. So now we have 3 children that are adopted from foster care. Total, we have 6 children. 2 are biological, and the others are adopted. And it's just been an amazing journey of faith and obedience to the Lord.
I know there are people watching just now, and you are a confirmation. This program is a confirmation. They've been dabbling around this in their mind, and they think, well, should I? And just by us coming, I remember I was on Focus on the Family one time, and we spoke about adopting Andrew, and we had about 1,000 people call us in our ministry, swamped us for days and days and days. How can I adopt a baby? How can I adopt a baby? Tell us, what is the major barrier? If someone's watching us from any state in the Union or even in different countries, how do they start this process? How do we get beginning? What's the barriers?
Sure. I think it starts with, first of all, a prayer and a heart. Yeah. And reading the Bible, going to books like Isaiah chapter 1 and reading the first 17 verses and seeing that this is truly not an option for a Christian. Yeah. This is something that we are all required to do. We're called by God, and he gives very strong language in the book of Isaiah about how we are required to take care of those children that don't have a safe home, don't have someone to care for them.
Wow.
Once we understand that and we begin then to pray about how, God, as I just shared, will make a way, and he will open our hearts and begin to prepare. But I would just say taking the first step is contacting, the local foster care agency in your state. Some states it's done by the state, some it's done by the county that works with the state. So it's just looking up your local foster care agency and then just asking to take a look at their application. And that's the first step. You just see what's involved, and they explain all of the steps one by one to being a foster parent. So that's really the first step. I think what I hear a lot is people will say, Pastor Bob, or they'll say, God bless you that you are a foster parent. Yeah. I could never do that.
Do it, sure.
And I say, why? Why could you never do that? Number one reason is I just am going to get attached to a child and never be able to let them go. And the goal of foster care isn't to adopt. The goal of foster care is to stand in the gap for a family that is going through brokenness. That is such an amazing calling to even for a few months while they get back on their feet. They for various reasons. It can be a few months. It can be a year. It could be 2 years possibly. But you're standing in the gap for a family.
How often does
it helps them?
How often does fostering turn into adoption? Is that a frequent thing?
Yeah, so 75% of the time nationally, children, the goal of foster care is accomplished, which is reunification.
Yeah.
The goal of foster care is to stand the gap for a child. The parents get things in order, and then they go back to their family, and you have made that possible. 25% of the time, they need to be adopted. So in our case, all three of our kids, needed to be adopted, and that was great. Whenever you adopt a child or you foster a child, it also is prevention for human trafficking.
Absolutely.
The human trafficking industry, it is now the largest organized crime in the world.
I know.
And so one of their targets, they actually train human traffickers to target foster children because they are vulnerable. And in many states, if you look at their websites, they put foster children as the #1 most vulnerable segment of our population.
Wow.
And human traffickers know that. They go after them. And so every child that you are able to find a permanent home for, or be a permanent home for, it takes them out of that scenario.
So what you're saying,
and they're not able to be trafficked when they age out of the system when they're 18.
What you're
so
saying,
it's prevention for human
ways,
trafficking that makes a huge difference in our world.
One of the most effective ways to diminish the chance of a young person ending up in trafficking is for that season to be that foster, that guardian during that particular time. Well, listen, I just want everyone today, if you're watching this today and you're a pastor, I want you to get this book, Fostering Jesus. You can get it at www.fosteringjesus.com. fosteringjesus.com. You can get it at Amazon as well, other retailers. But I want you to get in contact. I just feel this very strongly because a lot of folk come up to me when we share what we do in Moldova, and they'll come up and they'll say, oh, I wish I could do something like this. I wish I could. Here's a way to do something. Here is a way. Pastor, let me challenge you. Let your church become the foster center of your whole community. And I'll promise you this, it is the most rewarding thing to take these kids in that are broken and abused and love them in Christ and get them used to going to the house of God. It is an amazing way that you can be a part of it. And Dr. Bob Griffith is pastor of Christ Chapel in Woodbridge, Virginia, with his wife Wendy. It's my mom's name. And if you are interested, I would like you to get in contact with him. And I'm sure he can put you, christchapel.org is the church's website, so you can get there and get a hold of Bob and say, listen, how can I start? I would like to get this involved in my church. And hey, I'm sure he's got information that will do that. Pastor Bob, thank you so much for being with me today. Time has flown. We've got to do this again. If you will, come back and bring your wife with you the next time as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Backyardorphans.com is another great organization that helps churches do an assessment. So backyardorphans.org is another place I would send people, because not everyone can be a foster parent, but everyone can do some very practical things to support foster parents in our country.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching Daily Faith today. Help us in Ukraine and Moldova. We are in this thing together. We love you. God bless. Bye-bye.
For over 25 years, the Cameron family has been changing the lives of orphans in Romania and Moldova. From providing running water, flushing toilets, and clean wells, to coal for heat, new windows, as well as food and clothing, they champion the physical needs of the orphans in these broken and desolate countries. Many of Moldova's orphans are saved from the horrors of trafficking through homes founded by the Camerons, and in the process, orphans become daughters and sons. They come to know their Heavenly Father and are forever changed by the love of Jesus. God help the Camerons lift these amazing young men and women out of darkness. Now, no longer orphans, they want to return and invade that very same darkness with the light of Jesus Christ. The Orphan's Hands equips these daughters and sons to become missionaries. Your monthly gift of $31 will allow us to rescue and take in more girls and boys, saving them from the hell of human trafficking. Your monthly partnership will allow us to care for those in the Orphan's Hands homes in Moldova and the Ukraine. If you want to join Philip and Chrissy in taking care of these precious young people, please contact us today by calling 833-DAILY-FAITH. You can also give by going online to www.dailyfaith.tv or by writing to Post Office Box 25, Clinton, Tennessee 37716. So many lives depend on what we do. Thank you for loving the lost.